Welcome to BaseballGuys.com. I'm your host here on Around the Horn, the Hot Stove Edition, Ray Flowers. I know it's been a while since I've been on here, but as you can tell by my World Championship Giants hat, I had to take a little bit of a break from doing the videos. Been doing a lot of writing. I hope you've been enjoying it at BaseballGuys.com. But today, again, we're going to do the Hot Stove Edition verbally because there's just so much for us to cover here in 5 or 6 minutes. First deal, Adrian Gonzalez, the deal that was, the deal that wasn't, is now back on again. He was traded from the Padres to the Red Sox to give the Red Sox that bat they so desire in the middle of that lineup. He was moved for Chris Kelly, Anthony Rizzo, and Raymond Fuentes. Sorry, I had to read my notes there, but all three guys were rookies. Actually, youngsters are not even rookies. They're all in the minor leagues. Fuentes is a 19-year-old, first-round draft pick. He actually stole 42 bases last year in Single-A. Very bright future for him. Rizzo, 20 homers, 80 RBIs last year in Double-A. Maybe one day he ends up making a mark as a solid Major League player. And then Chris Kelly, #1 arm in the minor leagues, a starting pitcher for the Red Sox. 21 years old, throws very hard, lots of strikeouts, 81 in 95 innings last year at Double-A. He's probably the big prize for the Padres. Clearly this move helps Gonzalez value out tremendously. He leaves the ball yard in San Diego, which is arguably the best for pitchers in baseball, for Fenway Park. Not going to necessarily see a huge increase in his home run totals, but his batting average should go up. He should be able to pepper the green monster with doubles. His run scored total will go up, etc., etc. Obviously a very good move for his outlook long term. As far as that long-term outlook, he wants an 8-year, $161 million deal. Now, this trade almost fell apart because the two sides weren't able to agree to a contract extension. They still haven't, at least not officially, but you have to think the Red Sox wouldn't have made this move unless they felt confident that they could bring Gonzalez into the mix long term. Again, 161 is what he wants. First go round, the Red Sox didn't want to go past 5, but you can't think the Red Sox gave up this much talent, youngster-wise, to get a guy that they were only going to have for one season. Derek Jeter's going to stay with the Yankees. Not a big surprise there at all. Mr. Jeter, obviously the heart of that franchise. Lots of back and forth. He wanted $25 million a year. That didn't happen. Ended up settling on a 3-year, $51 million deal. There's a 4th-year player option with incentives, etc. that can take the deal up to about $65 million. So Jeter, on a per annual basis, gets a very nice contract. It's not as long as he would like, but at 36 years old, 3 years with the 4th-year option sounds about right, even for Mr. Yankee. Another Yankee, Mariano Rivera, signed a 2-year deal to continue his career as the best closer in the history of baseball for the Yankees. Rivera will make $30 million over the course of the 2 seasons. Some of that money's deferred, but you know, when you're Mariano Rivera and you're making hundreds of millions of dollars, what does it matter anyway? Great news for the Yankees. He's shown very little loss of skill on the hill. He should continue to be a top 10 fantasy option at the closer position. Great signing for the Yankees. No give in his game to this point. Now, Lance Berkman signed with the Cardinals. He's a 1-year deal. It's not that expensive. He could have a nice bounce-back season. Still can get on base very well. Great chance to get a 400 on-base percentage hit in the middle of that lineup with Holiday and Pujols around him. You know, probably not more than a 20-homer bat at this point, but the key for him is going to be whether he can stay healthy or not to enjoy that bounce-back campaign. Now, most executives looked at Berkman and thought he was ideally suited for the DH role. Bit of a surprise that he went to a National League team again. He'll go into left field, which forces the Cardinals to move Matt Holliday, who has never played a game in his career in right field, to right field, because Lance obviously can't handle that position. And the Cardinals obviously have a pretty good first baseman in Albert Pujols. Berkman, nice mid-level gamble to take in fantasy leagues. If he can stay healthy, he could have a great season in that lineup. Cliff Lee, he's still looking for a home. The Nationals went out and spent a lot of money on a hitter that we'll talk about in a moment. Because of that fact, you have to think that Lee is no longer in the plans for the Nationals, which means the 2 big suitors, the 2 names that have been following him all offseason since the World Series ended, the Yankees and the Rangers, are probably both in the lead. All kinds of reports going back and forth on where he's going to go. We've heard things like he doesn't want to stay in Texas because it's too hot, to he doesn't necessarily want to go to New York because his wife was spit on in the playoffs. I don't know where the truth lies. The fact is, it's probably a money grab at some level. This is going to be the last big money contract you have to think that Lee will sign. It might come down to the years. It looks like 5 years is where the Yankees want to go. The Rangers might be willing to go for 6. If they do that and match the 6 years that the Yankees would also offer, there's a feeling that Cliff Lee might stay in Texas where he can be the superstar versus moving to New York where he would have all that pressure on his shoulders. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Whoever gets Lee gets a hell of a pitcher. He's going to break the bank. Now, Carl Pavano is another pitcher who's going to break the bank with signings of guys like Jorge De La Rosa. Mr. Pavano is the #2 starting pitcher on the open market. You've seen guys like De La Rosa and Ted Lilly, these types of pitchers, getting $10, $11 million a year type of deals. You have to think that Pavano will get something very similar. Big risk with Pavano because of his injury-filled past, but the last couple of seasons he's actually looked very good. This will again be probably the last chance for him to sign that big money deal. And with the starting pitching market so thin, look for someone to probably overpay in order to get him in the fold. Now, a team that did overpay is the Nationals. There's no other way you can look at this, folks. They got their man in Jayson Werth. It's the power bat they can add to the center of their lineup to replace Adam Dunn, who left, who went to the White Sox. I'm not quite sure why the Nationals just didn't keep Adam Dunn at a lesser rate and lesser years. Dunn signed for 4 years and $56 million with the White Sox. You know what the Nationals gave Jayson Werth? 7 years, $126 million. That's more money than the $7,120 that Matt Holliday was given. It's actually, I think, the third highest contract ever given to an outfielder in terms of dollars. You know, the Nationals realized they had to overpay for their player to get that player into Washington. They did just that with Jayson Werth. Jayson Werth is 32 years old, meaning he'll be 38 years old in the last year of that contract. He's really only had 2 full seasons because of injuries and, you know, being, you know, monitored a bit here and there with his playing time early in his career. It is a boatload of money to give to anyone, especially a guy who leaves a great hitting ballpark for a so-so ballpark. Some other facts to remember with Jayson Werth: he's never hit 300 in a season. He's only got 130 home run campaign. He's never had 100 RBIs in a season, and he's only had 1 season with an OPS over 880. He's a very, very good outfielder, but the Nationals drastically overpaid for his services. Let's hope it doesn't end up biting him in the rear end like it has many other teams that have given out long-term deals like that. Carl Crawford. That guy's doing cartwheels at the moment. He wants 8 years, at least $150 million. People were looking at that and thinking, he may not get that. Well, the $7,126 to Werth, would you pay more than that for Carl Crawford? Would you go that extra year? Some team is going to do it, you have to think, at this point, especially with that market set. Crawford is a couple years younger. He's a much more dynamic option. He's a 5-category star in the fantasy game. Wherever Carl Crawford ends up, he's going to end up happy and one rich man. And then finally, Mark Reynolds. He's now an Oriole. He was traded today. News came out a little bit out of nowhere. Diamondbacks looking to boost a bullpen that was the worst in baseball last season. They traded Reynolds to the Orioles for Cam Michelot and David Hernandez. 2 names you may not know much about unless you're in an NL league or you really look at, you know, prospect type guys. Michelot, 6'9", like 260 pounds, a complete flamethrower. He has always had the potential to be a closer, and he might get a chance to fill that role with the Diamondbacks. He's had a strikeout rate of over 10 per 9 innings his last 4 seasons in AAA. That tells you something, though. He's been in AAA for 4 years. Not quite certain where he's going to be long term, but he does have great stuff. And then David Hernandez struggled a lot as a starting pitcher, but as a reliever, he's been pretty darn good for the Orioles. 33 relief games in his career, he's got a 3.16 ERA, a whip of 1.24, and a strikeout rate of 10.9 per 9 innings. 2 really good arms to add to that bullpen for the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are going to have to do something now to replace that 35 home run bat of Reynolds that leaves a gaping hole in the middle of their lineup. I'm Ray Flowers, SpaceballGuys.com. Thanks for joining me on Around the Horn Hot Stove Edition. I'll be back with you later this week as we go through the winter meetings, one of the most exciting times in the offseason in the world of baseball.